Ang Lee's Hulk is the subject of today's episode, and we're going to try to tell you why we think it's underrated. It's got a bad reputation. It's a good movie.
Talking about tapes.
Now, you know how the MCU is opening up the multiverse?
I do.
And we're getting multiple versions of characters.
I've heard. I think I know where you're going.
Yes, we got the Spider-Mans to come back.
Spider-Man.
They're probably not gonna come back for future episodes if you watch this show, but the Spider-Mans came back. What you call it? Doctor Strange is opening up the multiverse, and I believe we're getting new versions of Professor X and Iron Man.
Oh boy!
Yeah, so I think what better time to bring Eric Bana back than now into the MCU?
I think it'd be great.
It's been a while. Been since 2003. He's probably not up to date on things. He probably forgets what it's like to act as the Hulk. So Klayton, I invited him to the store to do the review with us.
Really?
Yes, Eric Bana's on his way. What's that, Klayton? I think I hear him jumping in right now. So, this tends to happen on the show. I didn't, because he's not actually a green monster. I didn't think he'd try to do it. It's just every time I think I got a sane one, they all get a little carried away.
Can I show that?
Well, Klayton, we're off to a bad start, but
you killed him.
Despite the death of Eric Bana, we're gonna keep going.
Right.
So, Ang Lee's Hulk. What did you think of this movie when it was coming out? Were you excited for it?
Well, okay, when it came out, I was kind of excited the same way I was for the Daredevil, X-Men, Spider-Man movies. Yeah. And I think everybody was waiting for them to go through everything and do those.
Yeah.
But the first time I saw it, I was kind of like, this is weird. This is a bizarre movie. I didn't really know what to think about it. Funny story. I actually, the first time I tried to watch this movie, which was when it came out on video, I accidentally bought a pilot episode of the Bill Bixby series. So I was like, well,
they did that thing where they repackaged it to look like the new thing. Yeah.
I was like, I'm pretty sure I bought Hulk.
Dude, when Batman Begins came out, they put the Batman serials on DVD, but they gave it that brown
I remember that
color.
they gave it the Nirvana Smells Like Teen Spirit Batman Begins.
Yeah, they gave it the brown color, and I was just like, all right, I see what you're trying to do here.
But okay, so when it came out, I didn't know what to think about it. I was like, this is just another, it's also Daredevil wasn't that great.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, all right, Hulk's like Daredevil then. We only pay attention to Spider-Man and X-Men.
Yes.
But it's funny because every time I rewatch this movie, and it's over the course of a long time, I think in 2013 when I rewatched it, I remember it was 10 years old.
Yeah.
And I think that was the third or fourth time I'd watched the movie, and I immediately my whole perception of it's completely shifted.
Yeah.
I was like, this is way more intelligent than I initially thought it was.
So I've been an apologist for this movie.
I can understand why.
For a very long time. When it came out, I didn't get to see it in theaters.
I didn't either.
It was just one of those things. I wasn't going to the theaters as much. I was if my parents didn't drop me off at the theater, I was a little too young to actually just walk all the way to the theater myself. A couple years later, I was able to do it. So I missed seeing it in theaters, much like I missed X-Men 2 in theaters. That's the only one I've never seen in theaters.
2 was badass.
Yeah. And I regrettably didn't see the best one in theaters.
Yeah.
So I was away on vacation when it came out. And when I came back, all my friends had seen it, and they're like, it sucks.
Yeah, I remember everyone hated it.
They're like, it's fucking awful. It's trash.
I didn't hate it when it came out, but I did think it was weird.
Yeah, and I had a friend, I think she might have come around on the movie at some point. I haven't talked to her in forever. But she was a big fan of the 70s show at that point.
Everybody was.
How do you feel about the 70s show?
So I like Lou Ferrigno, and I like the Bill Bixby. Bill Bixby plays it pretty serious sometimes. I don't love it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of there. Cool piano. I mean,
I get it. I get that's a big show and people like it. I was never super into the 70s Hulk.
Its relationship to Pumping Iron is, I think, what's the most interesting thing about it. But
just even as a kid, because I would see Hulk in the comics, and I really liked the Hulk. The Hulk is my favorite Marvel character.
Okay, all right, I didn't know that.
And I really, really liked the Hulk in the comics, and then the cartoon on UPN The first season.
The 90s show?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
really good. The second season.
I didn't know it had a second season.
Yeah. So the first season they introduced.
It's like season 3 of Gargoyles where it's just like completely different.
So the first season they introduced She-Hulk, and she was great in it. And I'm like, oh wow, that's really cool. And the second season they made her like a main character, but they completely changed. From what I remember, they completely changed her personality, and she got so annoying.
Was she more like comic relief or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, from what I
haven't
remember.
seen
Yeah,
it.
I gotta see if it's on Disney Plus. I'd like to rewatch that first season. So I really liked that Hulk, and I liked the whole thing with the tortured romance of him and Betty, and then the dad always tried the whole Romeo and Juliet with the dad not wanting him there. And you got the cool Frankenstein thing, which Stanley milked the Frankenstein Dr. Jekyll stuff.
Yeah, he
lot.
did.
But it was cool to see it from like, this is the superhero,
Yeah.
but he's the monster. And I like that he wears purple and green, because purple and green is usually a villain color.
Yeah,
set.
Green Goblin.
Lex Luthor, a lot of them. But yeah, so I really like that. And then when I would watch the 70s show, and I'm like, he's not as big as I'd want him to be.
Well, but come
I know,
on.
no, and I get it. But then like, also like, I know he did fight other like monsters, but not really.
I don't think I got that far to where he's fighting any monsters. I remember he picked up a cage.
He fights like another Hulk at one point.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember the TV movie with Thor, which I
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
I thought that was hilarious.
And the one with Daredevil.
Yeah, the one with Daredevil, yeah.
But yeah, I really I appreciated it for what it was, but I couldn't get into it. But that was most people's idea of what the Hulk was.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And this is a lot like Batman, where people, if you didn't read the comics, your knowledge of Batman was Adam West.
Yeah, Adam West.
And
totally.
when Michael Keaton came out, it was like
They hated the idea of dark.
They hated the idea of it coming out, and that movie's flawed, and we'll get into that one day. I like the movie, but it's got issues. But like when that movie came out, like people were like, all right, this is new, this is different, this is weird. And there was nothing else to compete with. So people really like that one. This movie comes out.
So different from the show.
And this is like right after Spider-Man.
Which was a huge hit.
So people are expecting it to be like fun and exciting.
This was also the year X-Men 2 came out.
Yes.
So it's competing with like a bigger like sequel hit.
And like I think it decided to tackle a lot of like heavy
Oh, yeah.
themes. It was real serious.
And I don't think people real serious, but it also had some very acid trip level like psychological things which nobody back then, even I would argue to this day, would look at the IP or brand of Hulk and think psychological.
Well, there's a lot of that in some of the comics.
I know, but on a base value, it's like if you don't know anything about Jurassic Park, you're like dinosaurs.
Yeah.
It's a little more to it. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes. And like a lot of the things in this movie, I think were in like some of the Peter David runs of Hulk, like the stuff with his dad.
Yeah, which I actually have a couple of those issues, which are really cool. I didn't know how accurate the whole father thing was until recently.
But I think it was just a little too serious for people.
It was ahead of its time.
It was being very experimental.
Yeah.
It was definitely ahead of its time. The way it told its story with the split screens and stuff.
It reminds me of The Guyver.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for talking about The Guyver, a movie I was like, I should review that. And then
You can still review it.
No. Only one person can review a movie on the internet.
All right.
That's what I've been told for years now.
Okay.
Hey, I'm going to do this movie. Red Letter already did it. All right, I guess
everything. They're like the Simpsons of this shit. Like, who the fuck hasn't done like? I didn't even know what The Guyver was until recently.
Yes, it was so funny because we talked about it like twice, and then you ended up reviewing it like totally coincidentally.
The fucking planets are aligning with the Kronos Corporation for The Guyver.
So yeah, and the thing is, the movie comes out, it's very polarizing. A lot of people didn't like it.
People hated it.
But unlike something like Batman, where it was very different for a mass audience, that had like no superhero competition. Hulk, you had the X-Men movies.
Good point. Yeah, Daredevil, Spider-Man.
People saw this and they were like, that sucks. I'll wait till Fantastic Four or something like that.
Yes.
So yeah, we were talking. I'm surprised this movie never really got like the cult status.
This movie's great, and what's shocked, I know a couple of people that actually are die-hard Hulk fans, like of this movie, and of the comics and stuff. And it shocks me that people still to this day think that this is a horrible movie. And one of my favorite reviews for Hulk ever is by Roger Ebert.
Yes,
he saw what we see in this movie. Yeah. And then when The Incredible Hulk came out in 2008,
I remember that he was like kind of ripped it apart.
Is this what you wanted?
Yeah,
a dumber, shittier. He didn't exactly say that, but like, I could totally see where he's coming from because this movie is like going in. It sucks too because back then superhero movies were attempting to get serious. Yeah. They wouldn't be popular to be so serious until like Dark Knight. Yeah. And I'm not saying Hulk's like Dark Knight, but Hulk was way more sophisticated than Spider-Man or Daredevil or even X-Men. Mm-hmm. And even at the time, X2 focused on a lot of really fun pop culture sort of battle sequences, like, and even really iconic action movie stuff like she's cracking the
that was cool.
The cool plastic prison with Matt. You should have killed me when you had the chance, Charles. Like Hulk is just no dialogue in the woods with
he's fighting
fucking dogs
and dogs. That's
cool.
the thing. Like
cool.
And that was the thing. Like it doesn't have him. He doesn't have like a super villain to fight really until the very, very end.
I think that's a plus.
I do too. But I could see like people being like, but also his villains aren't public.
Oh yeah, people.
Like, I know who the leader and Abomination and whatnot
normal
are.
people don't know who fucking fights the Hulk.
God, I'm so fucking mad. So I hated the way Abomination looked in 2008.
Yeah,
and then he came back in Shang-Chi.
And they gave him the fish ears.
He looks perfect. Mm-hmm. But he's in a fucking awful movie.
I didn't see that movie.
It's awful.
Okay.
But
I'll take your word for it.
I'm sitting there and I get it made sense. It's like, hey, if he had time to mutate, he like turns into.
What happened to the leader? Like, weren't they like gearing up?
They've never circled back to the leader. But anyway, I'm sitting there. I'm like, oh, he looks great now. And he's in this awful movie, but he looks great now. I'm like, can we get another Hulk where they like fight again and he can look right? Like, anyway. So I didn't see it in theaters. Everyone's telling me it sucks. And I thought maybe it would suck because like the trailers weren't really wowing me. But yeah, so I saw it on DVD. And the first time I watched it, I didn't really like it, but that's because I was sitting in a room full of people
that hated it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does color your opinion on something.
Yes. So they're all telling me it sucks. And I'm like, all right. So I couldn't really get invested in it. I'm like, what's going on? What is this? Everyone was talking. So eventually, I kind of forget about the movie. And then like a year later, I think I watched it on HBO or something. And I watched it by myself.
And you're actually able to absorb what's happening. And
I'm into this.
Yeah.
I'm actually really into this. And then afterwards, I started picking up like Hulk comics.
Oh, so this got you further into like the... Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I had like random comics here and there.
And you knew.
And then when I started like really getting into comics, I bought like the Return of the Monster and whatnot, and a bunch of other Hulk stories. And I really it made me like the Hulk character more. So I think it's really good. I think people need to go back and give it another chance.
I still don't get why people haven't, because it's weird.
Well, again, there's just, why would you? There's so much other competition now.
I get that, but like this one stands out because even though a lot, like they are working in a lot of those older Marvel movies into the MCU, like the Spider-Man trilogy. We heard Patrick Stewart's voice in the Doctor Strange thing.
I hope he filmed all his scenes before he stopped by the studio.
Well, like, look, anyways, Hulk, this movie, and I don't think it's a flawless masterpiece, but I do think it's a good movie. And I think it's shocking that nobody came back around and was like, you know what? There might be something with the drama superhero movie that was directed by a great filmmaker that nobody talks about.
Yeah.
That has Sam Elliott in it.
Yeah.
Like,
and I know we're big Ang Lee fans. Me and you, we get together, we go camping, we watch Brokeback Mountain together. What? Oh, do you not want any people to... I mean, no, we don't go to the mountains to watch Brokeback Mountain. We go to the mountains to fish.
Tires explode.
Anyway, let's get into this movie here.
Uh-huh.
So off the bat, it's just embracing the comics with the colors, the Comic Sans font, the panels and stuff, and it's real chaotic. And we get this cool opening of the 70s or the 60s, and it's David Banner.
And don't forget, dude, I'm not to cut you off, but the music also.
I was getting to the music.
Dude,
don't worry.
Oh.
So we get to see a lot of David Banner doing tests on regeneration of animals, and the whole thing is funny because in the comics it's Bruce Banner. But in the TV show, they changed his name to David Banner. Or David Bruce Banner.
Oh, his middle name was Bruce? Yes. I did not know that.
Yeah, so for this movie, and I think in the comics, they decided when they introduced the dad to call him David Banner. So we see him doing and it's a fun way to tell us like what's going on. So we get it. We're like, all right, scientist, he's doing something. I want to point out, Gail Hurd produced this.
Yes. And
we just covered Aliens, which she produced.
She's a great producer.
Yes. And Danny Elfman's score is great.
It's
unlike any other superhero score he's done.
you know, you immediately think, okay, we got to get a guy that scores superhero movies. So they go to the Batman guy, right? But this score is, oh my God. I really like this movie. The score is really psychological. Like, it's way more that dun 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 dun.
Yeah,
like,
it's really cool.
But also, there was something else. Oh, a little tidbit of information here. The original score to this movie was horrible.
Really?
It was like a techno.
Was it still Danny Elfman?
No.
Who was
They
it?
fired him. The movie was, I have no idea who it was.
Oh.
The movie was finished and they scored it. And it was like more, you know how Daredevil used like the rock, like Evanescence sort of thing?
Yeah.
So, but this was like a techno, like electronic.
Okay.
There's that scene where the Hulk like kicks the dude through the house and like jumps off and you see the puddle. You know how it's like quiet, and atmospheric in the movie? Originally it was like, it's the fucking Hulk.
You know
like,
what's funny? They do a song for this by Slash and a bunch of other
yeah,
musicians.
no, they're a band, dude. It's
what was
Velvet
Slash?
Revolver with Duff McKagan and Scott Weiland from Stone Temple Pilots.
And the weird thing is, like, in the credits for the movie, they credit the song before the cast even shows up. And I'm like, I don't remember them playing that song in the movie.
They don't.
Do they play it in the credit? I didn't watch all the credits.
Yeah, I think it's in the credits. The funny thing about that song, though, is you have to imagine 2003. Yeah. The 2000s were when people were starting to get like nostalgic about their childhoods, like the 80s people. And you've got that band, which is like Guns N' Roses and Stone Temple Pilots. Yeah. So like, why not put it in Hulk?
But it's just so weird. I've never seen the song credited that early in the end credits.
Maybe they contracted them to make the song for the movie.
Maybe. But anyway, so yeah, we're getting like this really cool visuals and whatnot. We see that he experiments on himself because Thunderbolt Ross does not want him to experiment on humans. We see his wife, played by Cara Buono from Beer League, Artie Lang's Beer League.
Okay.
She's also in Stranger Things. She's the horny mom in Stranger Things.
I thought it was Winona Ryder, but she wasn't horny, was she?
She plays a different mom.
I only saw the first season of that.
She's in the first season.
I saw it when it came out. Like, I don't remember much about it. I like Winona Ryder.
You like stealing stuff, don't you? You remember that?
No, I don't.
You don't remember that in the early 2000s? She got caught shoplifting?
I vaguely remember.
And then they made fun of her on Saturday Night Live when she hosted. They had like Will Ferrell like
why would
her and then
Winona
checks.
Ryder have to shoplift?
I don't know.
She's in Alien Resurrection. Your favorite Alien sequel.
She went through. She was going through something. Anyway, but she tells him like, "Hey, I'm gonna have a baby." I love it's not. I'm pregnant. I have wonderful news. I'm going to have a baby.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like,
well, I guess back then, you know, your 60s, they're probably like the scientific revolution of the pill. So they're like, it's my choice to have my child.
Yeah, but it didn't seem like that.
It's weird dialogue.
Yeah, it was weird the way they did it. And this is where you get the weird editing. But the weird editing works for this scene.
I think it works for the whole movie.
No, there's a couple scenes where it's just like...
We'll get to them. I think it works.
Yeah. So yeah, she's talking about that. She has the baby. Whatever David Banner did, it gets passed over to his son. And we're getting that information now. And it's kind of annoying when later in the movie, they're trying to retell us that information.
We already know it.
And it's like...
Well, Bruce doesn't know it.
Bruce doesn't know, but like the audience knows, so it's not as interesting to see him figure it out when we've already been told.
Sure, yeah.
And I want to say this idea of the superhero having a power before the Thing turns him was stolen for Amazing Spider-Man.
I've still never seen The Amazing Spider-Man.
They're terrible.
No.
You know what? If you want to watch them, the best way to watch them, Klayton, is to go to either patreon.com/hackthemovies or patreon.com/moviedumpster.
Are they both really bad?
Yes.
Okay.
And you download our commentary tracks for both movies and you watch it while listening to us. It's the only way to watch those movies.
All right.
Yes. So in those movies, like Spider-Man gets bit by the spider and he gets his powers. They cut most of it out of the first movie and then reintroduce it in the second movie. But Peter's dad did something that was passed over to him, which is why he was able to survive the spider bite.
I don't like that. Not for Spider-Man.
They take it from this.
Yeah.
They stole it.
But this was good.
I guess so. But yeah, so General Ross, he fires David Banner. David, tries to blow up the base and Maybe kills his wife. A little excessive, I think. I'd be upset if I got fired.
A lot of cool visuals that we have to talk about later on in this movie.
Yes. No, you know what? If I ever got fired, I'm gonna blow up this fucking store.
Like a nuclear.
And I'm gonna stab Johanna.
Okay.
But yeah, we get to see. I think we could have cut out Bruce in college with a stepmom. It's like 2 scenes,
I guess.
but I think it's just to show that he got adopted.
Yeah, it's easy information to.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And she's like, "You have something special, and you're gonna share it with the whole world."
Clark.
Yeah, this feels like. This almost feels like a scene that was added by someone.
It could have been a reshoot.
It needs to be more superhero-y, but make sure to predict what's going to happen. Because then that woman never shows up again.
No, she doesn't. That's a good point.
Ignored.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's now Bruce Krenzler, and he's going to work, and we see Stan Lee and Lou Ferrigno.
Which is a great little cameo.
We need to tighten up security around this place.
That's a good little cameo.
We find out from not Rick Jones. These movies are allergic to introducing the character Rick Jones. That's the guy in the comics that Bruce Banner saves from the blast.
I mean,
it's just weird. It's like, just call him Rick. Like,
I guess. Like,
but anyway.
Yeah.
He tells him, he's just like, "Hey, were you wearing that stupid helmet when you got dumped?" Because he apparently got dumped, and he still works with his girlfriend who dumped him. That's got to be rough.
That is rough.
Betty is complaining about her father or whatever, or the higher ups.
Daddy issues.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We joke about it a lot on the show that women need to forgive their fathers. But in this movie,
yeah, this is about that.
This movie is literally, that is her whole character. She's like, I'm just obsessed with
her whole character. Like, everybody's character.
The whole movie is about being obsessed with your father and not being able to forgive them. But she's like, yeah, I guess I'm just attracted to emotionally distant men. I'm like, oh, Betty. You gotta forgive him.
I'll say this about Jennifer in this movie is I actually really like her performance. And not to knock on the Incredible Hulk too much. I haven't seen that movie that much. Even when it first came out, the MCU wasn't established. So I still thought, even though I was like, this is a weird opening credits thing, because he's like, Bruce ends up in Brazil. You know what? He starts in Brazil.
I think that movie was originally written as a sequel.
It was a sequel.
And then they reworked it. That's why there's weird little holdovers.
It can kind of still work if you
didn't have that opening.
In like a Mad Max Fury Road way. Like where continuity schmont.
Yeah.
But I think Jennifer Connelly does a really good job.
No, she's great in this.
She's great.
And I really like Jennifer Connelly. She ended up back in the MCU. She's the voice of Spider-Man's suit in Homecoming.
I didn't know.
I think she's actually, isn't she like married or dating Paul Bettany, I think.
Oh, Vision, maybe.
I think so.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just funny to see like when characters cross over into different timelines.
They've done that multiple times though with these movies.
So yes, they have to go experiment with the regeneration thing. He's also, just by coincidence, that is a weird thing. Even the character points it out later how coincidental it is. I'm like, oh, is this planned? Like, no, it just turns out it was a big coincidence that he ended up going to school, learning genetic modifying stuff, meeting the daughter of the guy. What a series.
It wasn't, okay, so I think you're being a little too analytical, because it kind of was orchestrated a little bit by the father. Remember, they're trying to make sure that nothing happens bad. They don't know, but it's
I think
I get the complaint.
Yeah, General Ross at the end, he's like,
remember, the movie's also kind of about what's passed on to your son.
You inherit,
and I see how, I mean, in the real world, no, but I get, yeah.
So they test out the regeneration experiment that uses gamma rays on a frog.
I like the scene.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
No.
I like that it heals the cut and then
it actually looks really real.
The eye blowing up was gross. I was like, oh no.
I've always remembered that scene. Remember when they blew up I wonder if they actually blew up a frog for Hulk.
They actually blew up a frog. So Bruce is having a bad day. He knows he's in trouble, with the higher ups. His experiment didn't work.
Right.
He's, he just got dumped. And there's his ex-girlfriend going why don't you ever look up your real parents? He's like, just Jesus Christ, not now. What the fuck? I'm like, I got a lot I'm dealing with right now. Yeah. Why are you bringing this up? She's like, you never want to look up your real parents. She's like, they died? What do you want from me? It's she's so obsessed with
setting things up.
But it was it's lady, this is not the right time to bring this up.
Absolutely.
She's almost like, it's almost like she's mad at him for not having the same daddy issues she has.
Well, she definitely made that, like, she turned that around.
Very clear. This movie has daddy issues. It's what I want to title the episode, but I'm not. The Hulk, it has daddy issues.
It definitely does.
Hulk needs to forgive his father.
Dude, we can make fun of it all we want, though, but like, well, we'll get into it.
Yeah. Now, listen. This is one case where the split screens are jarring when she meets Glenn Talbot.
Betty.
Glenn.
So some of the split screens work really well. The transitions.
I think, what do you think, usually for action scenes?
Yeah. Then there's scenes like this where they do it, where it's like,
why?
And no, it's, for me, I'm just like, you didn't know which camera take to use, so you used both. That's what it seems like.
I'm sure I've heard people say that before.
Yeah,
like,
there's literally no reason to use a split screen here.
It can, one thing that I think I can understand people if they don't like the movie because they think it has an inconsistent tone because of that, where they can think like, am I supposed to take this serious? Like, we're switching back and forth. But I think, and again, to be fair, like I said, it took me a couple of viewings to really understand and appreciate the film.
Yeah,
I can totally see how at first glance this is jarring.
The split screens only bother me for stuff like this.
I'll tell you my favorite parts during that action sequence in the desert.
Yeah, that's when it works really well.
Yeah.
Now, it's funny we mentioned this because a lot of the things people complain about in this movie, some of it's been used for movies people like. The split screens were used in X-Men First Class.
Yeah, they were.
There's like whole sequences where they use
the
split
montage.
screens. Yeah. No one had a problem with it then.
It was a pioneer, Tony.
It was a pioneer. And even like Scott Pilgrim, well, no one saw Scott Pilgrim in theaters, but I
still haven't seen that movie.
Scott Pilgrim has a lot of weird comic style editing and stuff that was and there's actually other non-comic movies that were edited all uniquely like this.
Yeah, there's a lot.
The sequel to Wall Street, for some reason, has weird editing like this.
The Guyver has weird editing.
The Guyver has weird editing.
Of course, that came out before.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Interrupting the episode just for a second. I actually showed this movie to my good friends Trixie the Golden Witch and Mint Salad for the very, very first time. Trixie was aware of the movie and heard it was bad. Mint didn't know it existed until we started doing the commentary track, and that's why I'm actually telling you this. We have a commentary track that accompanies this episode. Like I said, it's with me, Trixie, and Mint Salad. Head over to Patreon and check that out and see what two people who weren't familiar with the movie, how they react to it, separate it from all the negativity and stuff from when it came out. It's real interesting to see how people today go in blind to this movie, and I think you really like the track. Plus, I'm on it, and I'm cool. Back to the episode. So yeah, Betty runs into Glenn Talbot, and he's like, you should work for my company, Atheon, or whatever.
Is it Talbot a reference originally to, like, the Wolfman?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably. But he is a character from the comics.
I know, but like, I wonder if that's where they named him.
Yeah. There's that weird love triangle with them. Now, it's funny that, like...
Love triangle.
It's funny because the MCU never got to go all in on Hulk. He got relegated to side characters. But they used Hulk characters and other things, and Talbot is a major character in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah. And he ends up dying. Okay. No mention of Betty Ross, so it's like
maybe this universe is
Absorbing Man's in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, and they do his powers right.
This movie's better. I haven't even seen that shit, and I already know.
So anyway, he's like, you should work for me, and she's like, not right now. What the fuck? But we see Sam Elliott as the older General Ross, and the guy who gives him like that file is Jin from Lost, Daniel Day Kim. I'm like, oh, that's him. Later on, at the very end, the guy who's at the one control panel when Bruce and David are talking. It's I think it's the coroner from Scrubs who ends up killing everybody.
Lots of little cameos.
Yeah, there's a lot of little cameos
Bill
here.
Paxton and Commando.
So yeah, Nick Nolte shows up.
Yeah.
As older David Banner, and he's posing as a janitor. Fun fact: Jennifer Connelly had a sex scene with Nick Nolte in a movie called Mulholland Falls in the mid-90s.
Okay.
That's a fun fact.
I did not know that.
So she's got a lot of daddy issues.
Yeah.
That's why she wants Bruce to know about his dad. She slept with his dad in the different
Something
movie.
I gotta tell you, Bruce.
But yeah, and then there is a weird... So there's a flashback to when Betty and Bruce were dating. And in the flashback, we see a dream sequence, which is actually just another flashback.
Right.
To Betty at an ice cream place with her dad, and her dad leaves her behind.
Yeah.
And she's all crying. She looks into a nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
Shouldn't do that. Shouldn't stare right
I
into
never
that.
thought of that.
Shouldn't do that. And then like there's the whole thing where at the end she sees Bruce as the ice cream man and he tries to kill her. She needs to go to therapy.
Yeah, they all fucking do.
Everyone in this movie needs to go to therapy. I'm like, okay, I get it. That's like a repressed memory she has. But then it's just like, you see Bruce, I'm like, all right, something else is going on here.
Yeah, for sure.
Bruce meets the creepy janitor's poodle. That's a big French poodle.
Yeah.
We get to see more of that poodle later on. And we find out that David's been spying on Bruce's work.
Yes.
And he even like sneaks in and steals his hair to do experiments and stuff. Then we get more of Glenn Talbot threatening to take over their project.
Right, yeah. And you can immediately see like they're putting chess pieces in place for some sort of big confrontation between like not only this weirdo janitor dude, but also like some guy with like this company power behind him. Like there's something bad about to happen with Bruce and she's connected to it. And it's Nick Nolte in this movie, man. I'm not exaggerating. Like I think he's incredible in this
Now
movie.
it's unfortunate he got arrested while making the movie.
What do we do?
I forget what he did, but he has a famous mugshot where he looks like a crazy person because he grew his hair out for this movie.
He probably was drunk driving or
probably something like that. But they remember
Getting into character.
and he's wearing like a Hawaiian shirt because where they filmed it, I think, because it was like a tropical thing, and they took a picture of his mugshot. And his hair's all crazy, like. Nick Nolte looks like a nut job. It's like, well, he was playing a nut job. He doesn't always look like that guy.
Oh man, pretty harsh.
But yeah, Talbot basically he like wants to use their things. Like we can use this on the battlefield, and he's like, I'm not making this for soldiers. It's for everyone. Bruce, idiot.
I know, right? Does he know what movie he's in?
Not a lot of people are doing nuclear bomb testing these days.
No,
Much like Spider-Man was like, yeah, we're not going to do the radiated spider. We're going to do the genetically engineered spider.
Yeah, which is kind of a holdover from the Jurassic sort of species sort of movies that they were making at the time, like genetic.
But it made more sense for that era.
Well, even X-Men had the Matrix suits instead of like their actual.
Yes. But no, for this movie, they're like, all right, we're not going to do a nuclear bomb. But I mean, there had been like meltdowns and stuff since the nuclear, like, 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl and whatnot. Yeah. I mean, this isn't quite that, but they're doing the same idea where like something gets screwed up and he has to absorb the radiation. That weird effect that you can do like on Photoshop. That was weird. That's one of the few effects that I don't like.
I like it. I think it adds to the zaniness of like.
I love the whole purple and green palette the whole movie has because they're really like again they're just embracing the colors. Whereas a lot of movies, and we'll get into it when he shows up, but or we'll talk about it now. Like Hulk is very green in this.
Very green, and I've heard people complain and say that they think it looks terrible, but like.
Maybe if they darkened it a little bit, it would have looked more realistic.
He's bright green.
He's bright green, but they were really embracing it. At this point,
he's fucking green.
Yes. Yes, but they wanted it darker for the movie. Now, at this point, only Spider-Man had done the bright colors.
That's true, isn't it?
Because, I mean, how else are you going to do Spider-Man? But, like, it's been a while since Superman was made into a movie.
That was a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, but, like, Batman, we were getting the black suits in Batman. We get the black suits
even in the
X-Men.
campier Batman, they got rid of the yellow.
Yeah, like the black suits in X-Men. Blade, black suit. You look at Blade in the early comics. He looks very different.
Yeah,
and he's British. But yeah, then like even Daredevil, really dark red suit.
And it's again like that leather kind of like Matrix.
So
Bullseye.
Oh God, Bullseye doesn't even have a suit. He has the big Matrix jacket.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it was a little weird here, and I don't think people were quite ready for an all CGI character, But anyway,
yeah.
We'll get more into that, but I like how they're just embracing the colors, whereas other movies were kind of shying away from.
Yeah, they were like,
except for Spider-Man,
we have to do PG-13 cool. We can't be authentic.
Yeah,
where this movie's going balls to the wall,
and it's so funny how like now you can just do whatever, everyone's fine. The audiences are on board.
Well, because the MCU. Okay, so this is what happened.
Yeah,
they rebooted Batman and went for a dark, serious. Like, I hate the word gritty, but like that's what that Nolan trilogy was. Yeah. And they went in the opposite direction with the MCU.
Which is fine. You can do both.
Yeah. But you get movies like this, which you could argue is a little more art house and not made to cater to blockbuster audiences. But this is like very different from anything in the MCU or any grounded Nolan-esque or what Matt Reeves did the new Batman. Like this is a totally different animal.
Yeah, and like I said, I like the MCU for the most part. Not so much these days.
I'm getting tired of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was getting a little tired before Endgame.
I liked Infinity War enough, but people
Infinity War was fine. I wasn't so hot on Endgame.
I think I didn't like it either.
Yeah.
People praise those movies to no end, and I don't even think they're bad movies. I just think like, dude,
some of them are a little too generic.
We have seen all these stories like over and over,
and now they're introducing characters that like you don't even. It's either you don't know them or they're not quite doing them the way they should be.
Are they gonna do Snowflake and Safe Space?
Not even that. But yeah, there's stuff that I'm interested for, like the new Thor and whatnot. Not too into She-Hulk, but I like Mark Ruffalo, so I'll see what he's like in the show. And they drew some good stuff on TV. But yeah, I do kind of miss and I think the reason they're opening up the multiverse is so they can go back to movies like this that are self-contained.
I hope they do go back to this.
Because DC figured out, they're like, we fucked up our shared universe.
Yeah, they did.
We're just doing whatever. This is a Batman movie. It's in its own universe.
Well, that's probably why they brought back Michael Keaton. They beat Marvel to the punch this time. They're not ripping off them Marvel's like taking.
But I wonder if that's why, like, you know, maybe they're not confident in what their MCU is going to be going forward. So maybe they're like, well, we'll open up the multiverse so we can have
so we can at the very least get nostalgia.
Yeah, it's like hey, did we screw up the character in the MCU? Well, luckily on Earth 15, he's different.
Yeah.
So that's what I think they're building to.
Well,
anyway.
Quicksilver, we can bring back the other Quicksilver.
I do like how they did that. That was actually pretty funny, the whole twist with that. So anyway.
Remember my bad knee? Well, now it's my good knee.
Yeah, she's like, you almost died, you asshole. Could you not be joking about this?
She's like, actually, you can tell she cares about him. And she's like, dude, you almost fucking blew up like that frog.
She's like, you almost died, and I almost had to watch you die. But yeah, it is curious. He's the only one who survived anything like this. So she's like all freaked out because in her mind, you're right. She's probably like, he's gonna explode.
Yeah, he's gonna blow up. Yeah.
So he goes back to sleep. He has an awesome dream sequence with the jellyfish floating in the desert.
This is one of the reasons I think people didn't like this movie, but like,
I like trippy stuff.
I do too, but like, you have to understand at the time, I remember watching this movie and going like, what the fuck is going on? I get it, but like, it is interesting that this movie wanted to go that deep on like the genetic, psychological, like freak show of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, instead of just, I am Mark Ruffalo and now I'm CGI, you know, like
I like seeing what's in the Hulk's head, like what he's thinking of. There's a great Hulk run that I have recently where like it's like inside the Hulk's head and it's like Banner and the Hulk and they're at a control thing. So like the whole thing is like they're trying to work together. But I like those like internal stuff that the Hulk has in some of the comics.
There's this great scene where he's talking about like he can hear his heart. Like
later on, it's like boom, boom. But yeah, just the visuals are so cool. And like it seems like trippy and random, but it all makes sense.
No, it makes sense.
It's like, no, because they use the jellyfish. They use this. He's having his memories of growing up in the desert. Like
music,
it's all like,
once again, is incredible.
The music is really, really great. He wakes up and he sees Nick Nolte.
Creeping over him.
And he's like, by the way, your name's Banner. I'm your dad.
You're not Krensler.
Yeah, you're not Krensler. Your name's Banner. He's really just unloading a lot of information for him.
But he's crazy. But dude,
by the way, he only went away for 30 years? Are you fucking... And he's like, they had to let me out. I wasn't insane. It's like...
He blew up a nuclear...
Caused a nuclear meltdown. You murdered your wife. Like,
yeah,
you're a terrorist. You're in jail forever. Like, what
does make you wonder how he got out. But
he literally... caused a nuclear explosion on American soil. And you just go away for 30 years.
You can see the desperation in his performance, like where he's really trying to like reconnect with, it is his son, but like you can see that he has been away for a really long, I never thought about
I would have had it where he broke out of jail or something.
Yeah, they maybe should have done that.
Yeah. Because I think they heavily imply he killed the previous janitor. She's like, what happened to the other late night guys? Like, he died. I'm like, oh. So I think I would have accepted that, but yeah, that is weird. It's like, no, you don't get to cause a nuke and then just go away.
I've never thought about that. Yeah.
Oh, well, he's not crazy. It's like, yeah, but like, what the fuck?
And he killed his wife on top of that. That alone, you go to...
Well, that was an accident, we find out. But yeah, you know what? You'll never believe it, but Bruce doesn't want to work with this weird guy claiming to be his dad.
Yeah.
He's like, my parents died. He's like, no, they didn't. I'm a weirdo.
I love his reaction. He's like, dude, you need to get away from me, please.
I like when the dog gets angry and he's like, stop.
Yeah,
It's
stop.
like he like controls the dogs. Ross ends up upsetting his daughter because she's like, I thought he wanted to talk to me, but he's like, what's Bruce doing? There's something weird going on with Bruce. And while that's happening, Bruce is looking at his blood and he's like, my blood's all purple and green. It's like that character, the Hulk.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there wasn't like a shared universe here where he's just like, I feel like I'm turning into that goblin who's green.
I feel like I'm the jolly green giant. I kind of like the exposition though for how they connect the dots with this movie, because while it can be on the nose, it's all done through those laboratory and it makes sense. Like they would be doing research into stuff like this.
And I like how they do his anger, where it's just like they establish early on he's bottled up.
Oh yeah,
He bottles up. It's not like.
that's.
I
Just
mean, you can do the
Bruce.
thing where, like, the Hulk, someone punches him and he gets angry. Or, like, what was in the show? He's trying to change his tire and he gets angry.
Yeah,
'cause
and the lightning.
But in this one, they're like, all right, let's not do just that. Let's also work in, like, the psychological anger and whatnot.
it's a little
he's
scary when he, like, freaks out.
So he's, like, freaking out because he's upset about everything. He's got all this information. And then Betty calls. Betty's the goddamn worst at giving bad news at a bad time. And he's just like, ugh. So he hulks out. And I like in this scene, he is green in the scene, but he's a darker green. And
I never noticed.
Part of me feels like, is it just because it's in a dark setting? But part of me is just like, oh, is this like a reference to how he was gray?
Gray,
at first?
maybe, could be.
But actually, I feel like if he was this color, dark green, less people would have been as angry.
I don't get the complaint. I mean, like maybe they're thinking.
I mean, I'm fine with the way it is. I think the MCU kind of nailed the color and everything.
but they
to
just
make it
do like
palatable.
muted. Like
Yeah.
they don't really go for the look, whereas this thing did.
Yeah.
Like this went for like he's green as shit.
Yeah,
Like,
and it works for later in the series, in the scenes when he's like contrasted against the desert and stuff. But yeah, he hulks out and he's pissed about everything. Apparently Ang Lee did a lot of the motion capture for Hulk in this. There's a famous video of Ang Lee in the blue suit with the cotton balls like breaking everything. What's his face? David Banner sees the Hulk.
there's a zoom in like shot of him like looking in the
And
door.
he's just like, oh my God, you're awesome. But then the Hulk's just like, wait a minute, I got a bad feeling about you.
yeah.
And instead of just beating you up like I do everything
Our
else,
kid-
I'm gonna run away.
It's an interest. There's the great thing where he picks the whatever it is.
Oh, and he does the Atlas thing?
Yes, and throws it through the.
Yeah.
And that's actually a pretty cool practical effect.
Yeah, how
It looks really good. Way better than the stupid cop car got destroyed in Incredible Hulk. Where they've got like the guys going down the alley with like Call of Duty and like a fiery cop car. Like, oh my God, guys. But like
I said, I for the most part like the MCU Hulk, just not that first movie. I really don't like that.
I don't
first
hate it. I saw it like 2 or 3 times. All I remember of that one is like this one. Like I remember the time people were like, "This is the superior Hulk
It's
movie."
fixing it. Yeah.
Fixing what? Like, but anyways,
Yeah.
This is a great scene. They have Nick Nolte. You can totally see how he is like focused in on the power that this guy fucking has.
And I like he does the my boy, my boy.
Yeah.
Which is a funny thing for like a revelation about his character later on. So Hulk is jumping. And again, people hated the jumping in this. I'm like, well,
I
that's
remember
a thing
people
that he can
complaining.
do.
I always thought, even when the first time I saw the movie, I was like, "It's pretty cool."
Yeah, but that's a thing that he can do. He can jump.
Well, of course you could.
And
if you-
again, this is one of the things where in the Ed Norton one, they don't really show him jumping too much. But then in the other Avengers, he's jumping all around. Everyone's fine with it. It's like, it's so funny to think.
I think
everyone got so mad about the jumping, and now he can jump in a movie, and everyone's like, yeah.
It's
cool.
it's because this movie, especially later on, where they show the like the really fast, and then he takes off.
Yeah.
It can come across as not really serious, but that's because this movie is like trying to be the comic, and
And it's just so weird that we've seen Hulk jump plenty of times now.
this came out right after Yoda started flipping around and fighting Count Dooku, right?
Well, there was that famous because ILM did this, right? Dennis Muren did this. We forgot to talk about that. Dennis Muren.
And he didn't do Jurassic Park 3. Obviously did The Lost World and Jurassic Park, and I think he did AI in 2001.
Yeah, but there was a famous like promotional image they were doing for a while where it was the Hulk with Yoda. And it was like an ILM image they were putting out at that point.
Right. But I can see when people get out of Attack of the Clones, and that's a big, all we knew is a puppet, and now he's like flipping over stuff, fighting Dracula.
And again, this is something that they couldn't do in the old show.
No,
so I guess that might be jarring.
Remember,
for people to
anytime every person would have known Lou Ferrigno's Hulk is like motion gets slowed real down, and you see him do some incredible feat, and you get some guy that's out of shape, like in a box, so that they can juxtapose the But like with this, they can actually show. Him doing all this crazy shit, and I think it works.
It's just, like I said, it's one of the things I remember people bitching about.
They did bitch
and everyone's
about it.
fine with it now. But I like the next day, Betty finds Bruce just with his clothes ripped up in bed. She's like, okay.
What happened?
And he has that thing where he's talking about his heart beating, and he's just like, I love hulking out. He's like, I'm not really sure what happened, but I feel great.
Yeah, that's a great. There's so much of that stuff that just feels right. Like it feels like this is the only movie I think that nailed the whatever. Fucking cool.
Heartbeat.
China Ross barges in and yells at Bruce because he thinks he's in on everything.
No,
he's like, you were at the lab last night. You're working with your crazy
You
dad.
were there back in the day.
And it's like, you remember what happened. You were 4 years old. He's like, what happened? And he's like, oh, God, your repressed memories. He's like, you're not allowed to work on anything. Fuck you.
I kind of get his concern. Like, honestly.
And then Betty's like, what's going on here? I'm going to go talk to that creepy janitor by myself.
What a weird scene that is.
And then she's like, I'm going to fix Bruce. He's like, there's nothing wrong with him. And he's not happy about Betty and his dad. He's mad that her dad is brought into it. He's like, oh, fuck that guy.
Yeah, that guy. He's the one that got me in trouble for that nuclear bomb.
Yeah, like I said, Ross believes Bruce is in on everything. After David has that conversation with Betty, he lets his dogs sniff her scent, who have already been mutated. We see he has a rat earlier on. I think it's a practical effect.
The monster rat. Yeah,
which is another thing Amazing Spider-Man stole.
Did they? I have not seen that movie. Yeah.
Well, again, if
a lot of people were telling me, Klayton, why haven't you seen that? Because apparently the lizard looks like those dinosaur human hybrid things that they were going to do for
a little bit, yeah.
Jurassic Park 4.
Yeah.
And I saw one scene of it, but like, I don't know.
I mean, did you see him in No Way Home?
Yeah.
No, there you go. You saw
That's it. All right.
Actually, No Way Home is better if you didn't see those movies.
Yeah,
then you're like, oh, let me go back and watch them. You're like, oh, these movies suck.
But no, the dogs are already mutated. There's this great scene where he's like, find her, and he they do the shadows.
And let nothing get in your way. Yeah, they're all shadows.
Fucking cool, dude.
Let me see here.
It is like a Universal monster movie too.
Yeah.
Like the old Wolfman Frankenstein type shit.
Yeah, there is a little bit in that.
That filmmaking that Ang Lee, I don't know if that was purposeful, but like it feels, and this is Universal, this feels a lot like an old Frankenstein movie or something.
Yes.
In a good way.
Yes. I think it works pretty well. And like you said, it is Universal. Universal owns the solo film rights to Hulk.
Why don't they make more?
That apparently they're just difficult to work with. That's why Marvel's allowed to use them in anything else. They just can't make a solo movie. So that's why they just shove them in other things. All right, so David calls Bruce and he's like, hey, I'm going to help you out. We got to work together. By the way, your girlfriend sucks. I sent my dogs after her.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, what the fuck? Like, could you not do that?
It's a great scene. But
yeah, at that point, what's it called? Talbot comes in. He's just beating the shit out of Bruce. He's like, you screwed up my deal or whatever. And then Bruce hulks out.
Yeah, and it's a great scene.
It's cool. It's cool. Now, the CGI on the Hulk looks great. The early 2000s CGI fabric.
Oh, yeah, but
it's just way too smooth. And like we saw this in the Matrix movies. Like his shorts, I'm just like, no, sorry.
David Kep's legs in the Lost World when the T-Rex is eating them and they kick like, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Oh, there is a bad, but after the Hulk like breaks out and gets bigger. Oh, in this movie, the Hulk gets a little bit bigger
every time he like absorbs kinetic energy or something.
Yeah, the Hulk in the comics is as big as the artist wants him to be at any given time. There's no consistent range.
I do like though when they're like shooting him up with lead and he like.
I like it just ripples.
Yeah, and then you can see him getting bigger. It's like the fuck about this.
It looks like it hurts him. He's like, ow. Also, that's the strongest sock in the world. He has one sock that's just hanging on. I'm like, nah, you're gone, sock. But yeah, he beats the shit out of Josh Lucas and he throws him. And Josh Lucas is like a CGI dummy that goes into the real Lucas. Yeah. But I like the shot where he jumps.
Mm-hmm. And then you see the puddle
and you barely even hear anything, but then you see the puddle ripple. I'm like, that's cool.
It is so cool.
That is so cool.
And there's a lot of this movie, and I mean, I don't want to say it's directly influenced by Jurassic Park,
Yeah.
but the stuff like the puddle and what the scene we're about to talk about really reminds me visually of like the Janusz Kaminski work on the Lost World.
Yeah.
And I think that has to do with like the environment stuff, but Dennis Muren did work on this movie, and you can see the way they use CGI here is like really. It's got that dark backlit.
Yeah, at this point, they're trying to keep everything in the dark to look more realistic.
But it adds to like the scary factor of like this.
Well, it's creepy when Betty goes outside and the Hulk's just behind that giant
Yeah,
tree.
that's another like Jurassic Park-ish like type of thing.
And she knows it's him. So they have like a bit of a moment, and then the dogs show up.
The dog, I actually
and he's
like.
got to fight. There are Hulk dogs in the comics.
Oh.
Here's another thing everyone bitched about: him fighting the giant Hulk dog.
I thought it was cool as shit.
I loved it.
I thought it was badass.
It's funny fighting a fucking poodle, lame. There's a fucking mutant poodle that's got like. It's awesome, and the big pit bull and stuff. And I like that they're unstable, so when they get killed,
they
just
explode like the frog. Yeah,
it's a fun fight scene where they're jumping up on the California redwoods.
Yeah, it looks like a fucking scene from Shinobi.
Yeah,
like, when they're on the.
Now here's another thing of things people bitched about that are now in the MCU. Thor Ragnarok comes out. Hulk has a long ass scene where he's fighting a giant wolf.
The wolf. Yeah, but this is
not one. But that's the thing. I'm looking around. I'm like, and then I'm online. I'm like,
y'all don't remember?
I'm like, everyone. I'm like, you all bitched about the dog fight. Now everyone's like, oh yeah, he's fighting a giant wolf. It's like, why did you guys bitch so much back then?
I don't get it, dude. Back then, people would complain about anything. Like, dude, the dog fight is awesome.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. Also, even the humor that where the fucking dog bites him in the nuts.
Yeah.
And he's like, but he's like, you treat Hulk in this scene like Commando and Arnold Schwarzenegger, where he's mowing down.
There's that one part where the dog bites him and he just flexes his bicep and breaks its jaw.
And then that part, there's a really eerie science fiction sort of part where he smashes the poodle. I think it's the poodle through the windshield, and you can see it's dead. And he throws it, and in the background.
That was cool as hell.
Yeah, it is cool.
So that whole scene is awesome. Everyone is stupid. I have that in my notes.
Everyone is stupid.
The fight is awesome. Everyone's stupid. And I also like the scene where he fights the wolf in Ragnarok, but it's just like, why is everyone...
This is way cooler, though.
This is way cool. I mean, both are fine, but I'm just like, man, it's just so funny how audiences come since then.
It's different.
Where they're like, fuck those giant dogs. And they're like, oh, the Hulk's fighting a giant dog.
It's because there's different generations that appeal to... I will say this.
But people in my generation who bitched, they love Ragnarok. And I like Ragnarok, but I'm just like...
I don't know why people haven't gone back to this movie.
Again, there's just too much... There was too many other options. But why go back when there's so many other options?
There might be some sort of renaissance with it because...
Hopefully.
This movie's, I would argue... Actually, I'm going to go out and say it's better than Daredevil. It's better than X-Men 3. It's better than...
Oh, yeah.
It's better than most... Personally... I think X-Men 2 is better than this movie, but I think this might be better than the first X-Men movie.
Oh, yeah. I'll give it that.
Yeah,
I like this more than most MCU movies.
It is better than most MCU movies.
And I like the MCU, but this feels a lot better for me.
It's a lot more original.
So, the Hulk turns back into Bruce and his shorts fall off. That's pretty funny.
I remember when this movie came out, I was so excited because it said brief nudity, and I was like, oh, I'm getting to see some titties. It's Eric Bana's ass. I'm like, damn it.
Well... If you want to see naked Jennifer Connelly, go watch that Mulholland Falls movie with her and Nick Nolte.
Yeah, you didn't sell me on that.
Or Requiem for a Dream, but that's a little sad.
No.
Those are sad nudity scenes. You're like, yeah, she's naked and she has a horrible drug addiction.
Dude, at the time though, I remember like, oh my God, it's PG-13, and then it's like fucking Eric Bana's ass.
So Bruce is like struggling to control his change, and he says Hulk.
You wanted me to change into that mindless Hulk.
So yeah, they the next day they like they shoot Banner with like the
trank thing,
which I'm surprised works.
Yeah, on him. I guess if you get him in his Dr. Jekyll phase.
I guess if you shoot him while he's a human, it'll be fine. I think there are stuff in the comics like that where like I shot him when he was a human.
By the way, Sam Elliott does a pretty good job in this movie. Sam Elliott, his performance was good. Yeah,
Sam Elliott in the greatest film ever made, Roadhouse.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
I think Sam Elliott's in other movies that are...
No, this is the greatest film ever made, and Sam Elliott is in it. You're not allowed to disagree with that.
Tombstone?
No, Roadhouse.
Okay.
Yeah. When people go up to Dean Cundy and they say, "What movie are you most proud of?" He says,
Jurassic Park.
No, he goes, "I shot Roadhouse." and it's perfect. Every frame is perfect. in the film.
Roadhouse over
Roadhouse
Jurassic Park.
Clayton, I will not stand for this Roadhouse bashing.
I'm not bashing the movie. Doesn't Patrick Swayze make a joke about playing with somebody's titties in that movie or something like that?
Look, we can talk about Roadhouse all day long. We gotta get back.
All right,
we gotta get back to Hulk.
How did we get on Roadhouse? Oh, Sam Elliott.
Yeah. So Betty and Jen and Ross, they're arguing over what to do with Bruce, and Ross is like, "I'm just gonna throw him in the cellar," and she's like, "What? We gotta help him." He's like, "No." By the way, I like that. They go back to their old military base and there's just a giant Resident Evil lab.
Yeah,
underneath.
I thought it was pretty cool.
Like the never-ending tunnel.
They've got like the different colored pipes, like the fucking Windows 95 screensaver.
But yeah, while that's happening, David goes to Bruce's lab and he tries to recreate the experiment.
Oh yeah.
And he ends up being able to regenerate.
Yeah. I like the effect when his hand is like stuck to the.
So first he cuts himself and the blood turns into jelly and he heals.
Yeah, I don't know if that looks that good.
And then he turns into like a little starfish thing because there's animal DNA in him and the gamma releases it.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so he kind of gets Absorbing Man's powers.
He's Absorbing Man,
but not. So Absorbing Man can touch something and he'll turn into that thing.
No, he has to like. Yeah.
Yeah, this version he can absorb it, but then he can become part of it and go into
Which is a cool effect.
That is a cool effect,
yeah.
but it's just I'm like, that's not quite absorb. But I mean, it's not the same character, so I'm fine with the changes.
I guess it's like the molecular level, like he is literally being changed while he's doing it.
Yes.
And then he kills the fucking dude.
The
poor other guy that's working there.
Yeah, the poor security guard. That should have been Lou Ferrigno. That would have been cool.
That would have been great.
But yeah, he knocks him down and he slams him. Yeah. All right, so I get that his hand absorbed with the computer. Does he suddenly have upper body strength to lift up that giant console? Realistically,
strong as steel.
He would have been like, ow, ow.
Yeah, I'm stuck.
Ow. His feet on the grate, I think that was used in the extended cut of Terminator 2 when the T-1000 is glitched. Yeah. Because I think that happened in Terminator 2. He looks at the T-1000's feet and they're merged, and that's how he knows it's not his mom. But I think that's only in the extended version. So Betty takes Bruce to his old house and shows him the door from his nightmares. And she's like, we're going to go in and figure out what happened. And he opens up, it's an empty door, and he's like, nothing. It's like, well, obviously there wouldn't be anything physically in there. It's supposed to trigger your memory, you dumb idiot. So yeah, by the way, I love when they're all walking together. There's just tons of military around them with tanks.
I actually really enjoy a lot of that scene because you can feel them trapped there, and it's also they have to deal with that part of their past, even though there's some traumatic imagery in this.
Yeah.
Especially at the time, you imagine these people their childhood in the 60s. Which is why you get the over-the-top nuclear sort of visuals and stuff like that. But then to actually be adults and
go back,
you're stuck there and you gotta deal with it. And there are the tanks and stuff around it. This movie is it's more cerebral than I think it's given credit for.
Good word. So yeah, Ross gets replaced by Talbot. His company takes over the whole institution. The government allows him, and Ross is pissed about it. And then Talbot's down there. I love he's the neck brace and everything. He's like, you asshole.
Yeah.
But he's just like, I'm gonna get you to change. And he's beating the shit out of him.
Knocks him out.
And at some point, I guess Bruce figured out how to control the Hulk. I'm like, that was quick. I don't think he ever really learned how to do it a lot.
No.
But I guess he just figured it out. But he says, he's like, all right, well, I guess consciously you can block me, but not subconscious. But I love he's like, this is going to be great. Either you green out and I kill you and whatnot, or I just kill you and get rid of you. It's like, all right, calm down, buddy.
It leads to that great, the visuals in this movie are incredible. The whole tank and everything.
Yeah, they put him in the tank. So, talk about coincidences. Jennifer Connelly, Betty goes to meet David Banner and talk to him again. And he's like, I'm not mad at you anymore. Sorry about the dogs. But he's basically like, hey, I'll turn myself in if I could see my son.
Right. Yeah.
And she's just like, I don't know if my dad can help you out with that, but whatever. And he tells her what happened. He's like, let me tell you what happened. I got fired. I was angry. I guess he wanted to kill Bruce.
He did.
Because he didn't want anyone experimenting on him or something.
So he's unstable, obviously. And you can kind of see that, at least in my opinion, it's almost like taking his anger out on the son for what he was trying to do. And like, I like how they revealed it the way they did in the movie. I actually didn't pick up on that my first viewing. Yeah. I still thought like, this guy's just fucking nuts. He's going to kill anybody. But now I think it was around the time 2013 when I rediscovered it and I was like, oh shit. Yeah. He's trying to fucking kill him.
But I think it was to like, I guess, make sure no one else got his work or something. I guess that was the idea behind it.
Well, yeah, he's been fired and he knows that he's not going to be, furthering his research and stuff. And then
because he talks about it was like to spare him or something.
He accidentally kills his wife.
Yes, then he accidentally kills his wife. I love that. It's like as if her and the knife merged. Because now he merges with things.
There's some pretty cool dialogue there that's really disturbing.
But what a coincidence. As he's telling the story, Bruce in the chamber is like,
yeah, he remembers.
I also remember that.
It's a weird narrative thing, but the way that the family is tied together or the families to like that event. And again, we mentioned in the earlier scene where they're both surrounded by the military, going through that area. It is very coincidental, but I think it plays to like the thematic, like what they're doing psychologically with this movie.
And I love when like the mom is like struggling and goes outside and sees the nuke in the distance.
Oh my God, that's an incredible shot. Thing. Yeah, it's very,
really
very
good shot. Yeah, so Hulk's out. He's like, that dream was too scary. I'm Hulk now. Thank you for giving me elastic shorts that were big.
Yeah.
They fit.
Really cool effects of the water, like when he kicks and gets out of the fucking thing.
People still, like, when they bring up bad CGI, they'll point to
I like that.
Like a shot like that. I'm like, there are way worse things you can go back in this. Die Another Day. Any fucking thing.
Die Another Day.
The surfing scene from Die Another Day. There's your bad CGI.
Surfing scene. How about Escape from LA? Like
that was more bad green screen, not
blue
so much
screen,
CGI.
probably at the time. What about the CGI dune buggy or whatever that he had that's getting like absorbed by the water?
Oh, that no, that's bad.
Jeez.
When I love the goo that they spray on him that hardens. Yeah, that's like a real thing. They put it like
cool effect too because it's going over the panels and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. This is when I like the split screens.
And then he comes up like, I need a sample.
I'm gonna drill this thing out of him, and then he gets way too big and. I don't know.
The ricochet is great.
Yeah, I don't know how Talbot thought that would go any other way, but yeah, he shoots the grenade and it goes
again. At the time this movie came out, I was like, "That's stupid." We were denied our big confrontational fight between the villain, but like 10 years later, I was like, "No, fuck it."
Now, what do you think about his death scene?
I like it. Like he's like, and then they do the freeze frame thing, and like I'm like, "Yeah, fuck that guy." Hulk would
it was very funny. I don't think people realize it was funny.
It is funny. Like,
but I also get like we just had a really serious scene, and then that might have been too.
But we're
funny.
so early in the movie at this point. We have a lot more to, and it's really Ross and the father that are like.
But I get like the problems with tone. We're like we just had a really heavy, serious scene. And that was too funny.
At the time, I thought that
you needed like I for me it works, for you it works.
Yeah.
But for more audiences, we could have had some comedy. It's just that
was too much too quick, and I thought this would be like a final showdown sort of thing. And this guy's dead, but if he would be fucking dead.
Like, I think it's just the freeze frame and then the fire going.
In the screen.
It's kind of funny.
I like it.
It's kind of funny. I like it too. So he breaks out of the facility. He runs out. He breaks the whole ice cream place and whatnot. And he's running and jumping. Yeah. He goes to his old neighborhood and he's like,
there's where I live.
There's my house. And then the military just blows up the whole neighborhood.
Which I really enjoy because
they have that weird bomb that shoots mini bombs. That thing was cool.
It's cool because that visual image of like how destructive, because remember, like they're the ones that wanted to start this shit in the first place. And now they're blowing up his family. This is not his fault. This is a very sins of the fathers sort of situation. And like, it's weird because the war in the movie is actually between David and Ross. Yeah. On a
and it's affecting their family.
Kids, and like this guy he was living a normal fucking life. Yeah. He was a completely different person, and now he just watched his childhood home get blown like in front of him for something he didn't fucking do. But yeah.
At no point does his old stepmom call him and ask how he's
she's
doing.
Just not in the movie.
Hey, Bruce, honey, how you doing?
Honey, I heard something big go off. But what was that?
Honey, I saw a green man on the news. He looked like you. Have you been going to the gym?
Have you been going to the gym?
Yeah, so he's running away from that. And then he beats the shit out of some tanks, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I thought he killed those people at the time, but I guess they survived.
I'm pretty sure he killed the tank that was thrown all the
That
way
one,
in the
yeah, but the
distance.
one I do.
But then
love-
there's other ones where he
I
makes
do
a
love
point.
where he shakes them out.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I also love where he comes around and,
Yeah, and he's like slapping it, and then they just get away, and then he points the gun at him.
That's a great bit of comedy. Yeah.
Which wouldn't do anything. But anyway,
No,
but it's a cool
it's a-
visual.
yeah.
But yeah, I love when he's beating it, and I love the wide shot of him in the distance just jumping
I
away.
do too. Now, I will say there are scenes in the desert portion of the movie that I think drag on too much, but that's because I personally prefer the drama that
Yeah.
the movie had. But when we get to like the helicopters and stuff,
Yeah.
I think it went a bit too. At this point in time, I think Ang Lee was like, okay, we've done the movie.
Yeah.
Now we have to have the action.
I wonder if like the tank was added, because you could have cut that out and been fine.
Mhm. But I prefer the tank over the helicopters.
Yeah, the helicopters goes on a little too long. They call the president, who looks just like Bush,
This was one of the. I hate when
and he
movies
called
do
and he
this.
called a lady who looks just like Condoleezza Rice,
Yep.
and I'm like, that was topical for the time.
It's better than Transformers, where they've got him like wrangle me.
Give me like a ding dong,
Yeah,
lady.
That's so stupid. Can you imagine if there's a scene in the Lost World where like Bill Clinton is like on the streets in San Diego, like Monica, run! There's a T-Rex.
And yeah, they turned that whole canyon into a parking lot. And then they're
They
like,
say that,
we
yeah.
need fuel. We got to leave. It's like, someone should land and stay behind and make sure no green thing comes out of those fucking rocks. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's exactly what happens. But yeah, they're basically like, he's still alive. He's like, all right, he's going to San Francisco. Like,
I like this though.
Yeah.
I think this stuff's cool.
and he goes to San Francisco and he makes his way to the Golden Gate Bridge because it's a law. If your action movie has
gotta-
anything to do with San Francisco, you have to be at the Golden Gate Bridge.
Sure.
You just have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's every fucking movie.
X-Men 3.
I just saw Terminator Genesis, Godzilla,
I
Pacific
remember
Rim.
nothing about Terminator Genesis.
There's a big action scene on the bridge. Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
I like that.
Star
Yeah,
Trek
that was-
2009.
I remember so little of that movie.
Yeah, it's just if your movie is in San Francisco, you have to have a scene.
Mm.
I want to make a movie in San Francisco where there's like a big action scene, but like the Golden Gate
postcard.
Bridge is just in the background. Like they never get there.
It's funny every time I
San
think
Andreas,
of,
that was another one.
Every time I think of San Francisco, I actually think of the Dirty Harry movies more than I do of like any of
yeah.
this stuff.
Did he ever fight on the Golden Gate Bridge?
I don't think so, but
No.
it's been a long time.
Well, I guess we
this
gotta-
was before the super.
Well, we got to watch all 6 of those movies.
We got to make
I
another
think I
Dirty
only
Harry.
have the Deadpool here. I think that's the only one I have.
But-
Is the Deadpool.
Sudden Impact's pretty cool. I like that one.
I'd have to watch them again. I can only remember the first one and just barely.
Dude, second one's pretty cool too.
Anyway, this also feels like an added scene. So Hulk is not doing any, and this might have been a problem.
He's not doing anything that's actually blockbuster worthy.
Well, no, he's not doing any super.
No, he's not really a superhero in the movie.
Well, that was my point. I'm like, yeah, well, Hulk's not. He
But
can be a superhero.
But he's not. Like, he's
Yeah.
just a traumatized dude.
Yes, but I mean, like, even in the other movies, like in the comics, he's not a superhero first. It's just like there's a monster. Well, I guess I could release the Hulk and beat him up.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
even
yeah.
The Avenger movies do a good job of like they're like directing him where to go. He's not going to do it on his
although
own.
in those, they're a little more. The MCU feels like a little silly in comparison to this because this one's way more like.
Yeah, but I'm saying like we don't get the scene of him beating up the muggers.
I get why people wanted that, but like that's way.
However, this scene, if this feels like it might be added, because then the jet's coming.
Yeah.
And it almost crashes into the bridge, and then for some reason the Hulk looks, he's like, oh, and he has to like stop the jet.
Oh yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah, good point. Good
and I'm
point.
like, I don't really
Would
see.
he give a shit?
I'm like, I don't really see this Hulk being smart enough to do that or even caring.
I do like when he's like, when the jet is like going up and up and up.
Oh yeah. They're like, hey, take him to the top of the world, see how the air doesn't, to make him like run out of oxygen because he still needs to breathe. And I do like that part with the pilot's like, I can't breathe. They're like, go a little further. And like,
Pretty sure he floated off into space. Like,
well, it was the upper whatever. But yeah, I like that the Hulk starts frosting up.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Which Iron Man took in the
They
first
did
Iron
take
Man.
that, yeah.
I mean, you could also just take that from science because that's what would happen. But anyway,
The MCU doesn't
I do
care
like when
about
he
science.
falls down and he has the dream of him in the mirror.
Yeah.
Which was used for the teaser. Remember the teaser?
That was in
this?
which is funny because they did that a lot in movies back in the day.
Yeah.
The whole mirror scene. That's only one scene in the movie, and I think it made you feel like that would be this pivotal turning point or something.
Well, the way the trailer made it seem, but it's a really cool dream sequence where he actually faces the Hulk, which we don't.
But it also
in a lot of
the
other
Hulk
Hulk
doesn't
stuff.
really talk that much, and that was one of the only times where it's like puny human.
And it's in he talks at the very end, so he can talk, he just doesn't.
But right,
yeah, but I like the whole puny human because it's just a catchphrase he says in the comics,
but
it kind of works here where it's like, oh, internally, does the Hulk think he's better than Banner?
He is. Like, I mean, shit.
But I like when he grabs them and then it dissolves back into the Hulk falling into the water. They blow up the water. I like when he comes out of the ground in San Francisco and he like throws all the cars down.
Uber cool.
And I think he's covered in poop. He's got
the sewage. Yeah, I never thought about that. Ew.
He's coming for you, Betty. And she's like, well, let me just go to him and I'll calm him down. And like, what's his face? Ross is like, good point. Let's send her there. And they do that thing where that's the thing. He's about to blow up that helicopter.
Yeah.
So that's why the previous scene where he's like, oh no, not the bridge. I'm like, that doesn't really jive. I feel like a producer.
Right, I don't think he cared. Yeah,
I feel like
probably wasn't at it.
They're like, hey, can we have him like try to save someone other than his girlfriend? Like, okay. Any other filmmaker would have been like, the Hulk stops a bank robbery. And it's like, I guess he would, but not on purpose.
Yeah, not on purpose.
Like the Hulk would be like at the bank and someone shot him and then he turned into the Hulk.
The MCU would have done something stupid like the Hulk loves Twinkies and like the bank robbers have stolen.
I don't know. No, they're not that. It's not that.
They've stolen a Twinkie car. And he's I must save the people before it goes over the San Francisco bridge.
I will say, we'll see what happens with She-Hulk. But the MCU, outside of Ed Norton's thing, which I thought was also too serious, like they haven't been too serious. They haven't been that dumb with the Hulk. Outside of the Coca-Cola commercial with him and Ant-Man. But that's not actually canon. That is just a commercial.
The taco thing? That was another like overly goofy thing.
Oh, that was fine.
Yeah.
But I was just, the Hulk wouldn't be like, I gotta save my Twinkie. Like,
I think they would make him like that. Like,
I do like how the MCU, like in Ragnarok, the Hulk is like mentally like 4 years old, so he's talking finally, but he sounds like an idiot. He's like, Brr! So yes, Betty releases him. Or calms him down. I love that line where he's like, you found me. She's like, you weren't that hard to find. Like, no, I was. And it's like, oh, I get it. Like, mentally, where was he?
Yeah.
She found his soul.
I guess one critique I will say for the movie, and I always have felt that the action is my least favorite aspects of it. It's good action, but like, I was really into the drama stuff, and Nick Nolte does kind of disappear. Like for
a while.
But it's because the movie's about Hulk, and Hulk is like doing all this contractually obligated action sequence stuff. And Nick Nolte, in my opinion, is the highlight of like the whole fucking thing. But she calms him down and they take him away, right?
Yes. Like, and I guess Ross is back in charge because
the other guy's dead.
blew up. So they put him together for some reason. I don't know why Ross entertains this.
Well, remember, like they got him to calm down because of the daughter, so maybe they can get something because of this father. And
so they put them together. And they're in like this big electric reactor, so if they do anything, they'll fry them.
Awesome set.
Yeah.
And
they're spotlit. It looks like a college short film that I shot probably when our studio was black curtains with spotlights. But they had that scene together. Like Bruce is all sad. He's like, "You killed my mommy." He's just like, "Mama." They're fighting. They're arguing. You find out. He's like, "Listen. I am like you now. I can absorb things, but I'm unstable. I need to absorb your power.
Give your power to me, son.
And I will take it out on the military who's ruined all of our lives."
But, dude, this dialogue is the highlight of the movie for me.
Yeah.
Think of all the harm they've done to you, to me, to humanity.
This scene with the father and the son is incredible, and the dialogue Nick Nolte gives, there's and some of the insults that he gives to Bruce. He's like, "Listen here, you worthless speck of human trash."
Yeah, like that's the whole thing. So he's always constantly talking about my son, my son, my son. And you find out here, he's like, "I don't give a shit about you. I'm talking about my real son, Hulk.
Yeah,
that is my real son." And I want this power because I hate the military and authority so much. Which I
All the flags and uniforms.
which I was like, I'm watching this now, and as a I'm just like,
dude.
I'm like, wait a minute,
The dad.
Bruce.
Listen, hear him out.
Give me your power.
Nick
Hey, can
Nolte's-
I get that power? I'm on board with this guy.
He's like he's almost like an.
Those goddamn government's controlling our lives. I'm like, wait a minute, is this the bad guy?
Yeah. Well, he's like an anarchist or something, but he's just selfish though. Really,
Yeah.
he just wants it for himself. But he does make that argument, and there's that great scene where like Bruce is like, no, and
then he makes fun of him. He's like, yeah.
yeah, and I love, dude, that whole scene is the highlight.
And again,
of the movie
like,
for
you
me.
know, bad guy wanted to like take his anger out and use this power on the government. You know, after getting my taxes back this year, watching this movie after getting my taxes
Hey,
back,
I think that's a lot of.
I'm
people.
like, Nolte, let's do it.
I hope he wins this
Let's do
time.
it. The Hulk is the bad guy of this movie.
The dialogue is so on point though. Like,
And I love that he's just like, whatever. And he bites the electricity.
You just watch me go.
yeah, and they
Hit it.
and then he turns
Punch
into,
it. Yeah.
Yeah, he turns into electricity. Some people's there is an electric bad guy, and people think this might be a reference to that, but I think it's just he's electric.
I think ILM was just like, what can we do with like visual
And
effects?
now this stuff, Nick Nolte's great, but this has a problem other movies do, where like he transforms into CGI, and then just like it's a little bit better than somehow how other movies did it.
And didn't people hate this ending too?
Yes.
Yeah, because people were like, "What the fuck? We don't get our big fight." Even though personally, I always thought it was badass when he's jumping through the
I
clouds.
thought the lightning was
yeah,
cool as shit.
the lightning and then Danny Elfman's dun 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 dun.
The Rock looks pretty bad.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is
Don't
after,
look as bad as fucking what's his name's rubber suit in Fantastic.
but I'm saying this is after Galaxy Quest. Now that's a rock monster.
Yeah, this is also during the the prequel effects, Jurassic Park movies.
Yeah,
Like,
but
the
this
rock
is-
monster does.
This is a
look
problem
bad.
with other movies where, like, you know, the bad guy transforms into some monster and we kind of lose that connection. I'm going to talk about the movie at some point, but Blade almost made this mistake.
Which one? The first
The
one?
first one.
Yeah.
He was going to turn into a blood tornado.
Yeah.
And they were like, wait, maybe our bad guy shouldn't turn into a blood tornado. Maybe we should keep him because he's actually good.
The first half of Blade 2 is the best Blade anything.
Yeah. I guess, like, if it was like traditional Absorbing Man where he kind of keeps his shape, we would have had him a little bit more.
I think just the idea of a rock that's like unstable, and
Yeah.
it kind of looks like it's a villain from like Herculoids,
Yeah.
or something.
I do like how he's not able to control it a little bit because he gets thrown into
Well,
the cliff and he's like, oh, fuck, I'm stuck.
Yeah, and he like lifts it, but
And
that's
then
what
the
he
Hulk
wants. Is he wants the power from Bruce? and
Yeah, the Hulk throws him into the water like an idiot.
then he screams. Ah!
But yeah, so he grabs him and he like freezes him. He's like, hey, just give me all your power, all your power.
You think you can handle it?
And I love that scene where he's like, I want it all. And he's like, all right, take it all.
Take
And he
it all.
talks, he screams, take it all. And he overwhelms him with the Hulk energy. He's
Take
like,
it back.
yeah, he's like, this is too much. This is too much. And he turns into a big jellyfish who's
Yeah, oh,
projecting
yeah.
his memories onto the thing.
Yeah. Then they have the whole
They blow him up.
the visual effects of and again the music
Yeah.
and like the horrible imagery of like
Yeah.
the father and son battling.
And I thought that was really, really cool. And I guess in a more traditional movie, you would have had him slugging it out a little bit longer before
Like
this
the
ending.
Incredible Hulk. Like
Yes.
what came after this.
Yes, yes.
But that
But I guess where they were coming from, like, well, we just had that huge desert action scene.
it deprives the actual thematic weight of this movie. Is not about physical blows, which is interesting because it's
Yeah.
like a Hulk movie, but it's like
it's an interesting way to do it.
It's the psychology
Yeah.
of like the sins of the fathers
And people, I just don't think people were ready for that kind of movie at that point.
I think the
now
movie
they would be.
Yeah, the movie's too good for them.
Now they would be.
Like-
Now you could do this with like modern effects and
People would
tweak
have
a few things.
way accepted it more today.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they blow up David Banner. He's dead.
And then all we got is like Eric like in the water.
Yeah.
And then he's got a weird memory where like his father's like nice to him as a kid and everything, and he's like hugging him and shit.
Yeah, that's a nice moment.
Yeah.
Maybe that's one of the memories he got from his father. But yeah, I like when Ross asked Betty, he's like, hey, if Bruce ever reaches out
That
to
would
you,
be
will you
no-
tell me? And
This is a
she's
good
like,
movie.
And she's like, no,
Yeah.
I won't.
Yeah.
She's like, also, I think I'm the last person he'll ever come to. But yeah, then we go to South America.
Yep.
And there's a bunch of cartel guys or revolutionary guys.
Right. And he's a medicine man.
Yeah, they're trying to take medicine from the medicine man who is Eric Bana and a terrible beard. A
Yeah,
fake
it
beard.
kind of looks like it reminds me of Martin Gutierrez from the Jurassic Park novel because he's described as being like a bearded Spanish-speaking man.
Yeah, so there's a really because he earlier in the movie he said you're making me angry.
You wouldn't like me.
But in this one, he does the whole like, you're making me angry, you wouldn't like me. But he does it in Spanish.
Great
which I
little
think is cool.
frog.
Yeah, I like that the frog is somehow able to absorb some of his Hulk energy.
This movie was so. This is why I think people weren't ready for this.
Yeah.
This came out in 2003. Yeah. The current atmosphere for blockbusters was either shit like Swordfish or like the prequels. Yeah. Because by this time, Jurassic Park is done. And the only super intelligent thing that you're getting is Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And the Lord of the Rings is like a trilogy of very expensive fantasy movies.
Yeah.
Every other superhero movie at the time had that camp, but it had like it was way more dialed back and way less serious. Nobody took Peter Parker seriously.
Oh, I did a little bit.
You think that Peter Parker is like
more so in the second movie?
But that hadn't come out yet.
Yes.
Like, and I can remember at the time, actually, there were some people that actually didn't really think Spider-Man 2 was as fun as the first Spider-Man.
Which I can see, but at that point, they had the fun. That's the thing. They had the fun first movie where everyone got on board, and then they could be a little bit more serious.
It was a better movie. And I think with this movie, the other films, like, where's all the jokes of, like Hugh Jackman saying Patrick Stewart's like wheels or something? Like, that's not in this movie.
And even when they try, it kind of falls flat.
Well,
there's a few little like winks where it's like, we're gonna have to watch that temper of yours,
right?
Like,
but even that's way more serious.
Yeah.
Like it's way more, and it fits the film.
See, the X-Men and the Spider-Man movies, they kind of perfected the formula of serious and comedic stuff, which the MCU took. And
even though I would argue, maybe it's just because of how film was at the time.
Yeah.
X-Men and Spider-Man were a little more grounded than like what we're doing today.
But I mean, like
I get what you're saying with like the tonal consistency.
Yeah. Because then you had other movies that didn't have that, like fucking Daredevil.
Another
that couldn't balance it out at all.
But that was also trying to be like an edgy, early emo, but also like with Green Goblin, how they tried to ground it with like the glider, and like the Power Rangers armor suit.
Yes.
But even then, you could look at, okay, this is like Jack Nicholson's joke, like misery, misery. That's what you've chosen. And like with Nick Nolte, he's like the flags of the men in their uniform. Like this is real psychological trauma.
It was just a little too much. I could see young kids being bored by it.
I was kind of bored when it came out.
Yeah.
I was like, I'd rather watch the pilot episode of the TV show. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, this is the best Hulk movie.
If you haven't seen this movie since the early 2000s, give it a chance. Go back and watch it. I love this movie. I used to get into fights with people about this movie. Like, this fucking movie's great. It's fucking genius. Fuck Ed Norton. I hope that movie fails.
Oh, wow.
And eventually Mark Ruffalo, I'm like, all right, I'm on board with this version. But no, I think it's a really, really great character-driven movie.
Yeah.
Again,
it's a film.
Ahead of its time in some ways.
Yeah, a lot of ways.
Yes. And I think it's really enjoyable. Go back and watch it. Let us know what you think. Because there are a lot of those movies that get bad raps early on.
There's loads.
And like I said, I've said it many times during this review, there was just too much competition. So people, if you're going to go back to 2003 and rewatch a superhero movie, you're watching X2 and stuff. Whereas other like movies, people go back and they're like, oh, this movie was actually good.
Yeah.
So, check it out. I really love it.
I love it too.
I mean, I would like Eric Bana to come back one day, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Shit. I'm running out of room. Like, they're piling up. I don't know how to get rid of them. Do you have any advice?
Stop killing them?
I don't kill them. I just invite them to the store. Anyway, Klayton, thank you for stopping by, and thank you for not jumping through the window and using the door like a normal person.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Klayton, where can we find you?
You can find me over on the channel that is Klayton Furidi, where I talk about Jurassic Park stuff. But also I have a second channel, which is doing pretty damn good, called Dragon Curve. All one word, where I talk about shit like this and all kinds of other stuff.
Yes, and I assume it's Raid Shadow Legends.
Not yet.
I keep trying to be a Raid Shadow Legends channel.
It'll happen.
I joked about it a while back. I got a brand deal from them. I'm like, the entire time I had that cat, Raid Shadow Legends the cat, not one Raid Shadow Legends deal. The cat disappeared. Suddenly they come back. I'm like, shit, I could have used the cat. But yes, follow Klayton. Please follow us, like, share, and subscribe. leave us a voicemail. We're doing voicemails again, Clayton.
Oh boy.
Maybe we'll do some voicemails while you're at here.
Okay.
We'll sprinkle them in. This is coming out later, but we'll sprinkle them into earlier episodes. But yes, do all that. Patreon is fun. Do that. Buy a t-shirt. We have a mailing list now because I'm sure, as you know, YouTube isn't the best at letting people know what they like is out. So I do a mailing list, and when all versions of the episode are on all the platforms, I email everyone on the list, be like, hey, it's up. Here's where you can find it. So sign up for all that, and thank you guys for watching, and leave us a review. And goodbye.
Bye.
He never says Hulk smash.
Oh, I didn't.
We are waiting for the Dark Souls of fighting games. Let us have it. We're ready.
Soul Edge has nothing on a lightsaber. Like, I'm sorry.
James Earl Jones comes back.
No!
Oh no! Oh!
I don't think kids trade games anymore. I need that sense of accomplishment, and it wasn't there. And I think that was a major flaw.
The way they engineer these is just phenomenal.
As much as you're into like the comics, I was very into the toys, so I was on like the message board all the time.
Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our other videos and Patreon page.
Talking about tapes.